Hello, everyone. Brainerd Carey here, of course, Director of Praxis Center for Aesthetics. I want to welcome all of you members who are hearing this now or afterwards. I always like to begin by thanking you for being a member of this tribe, of this special group and community. Of course, we're a learning community. There's a lot of classes here and an editor like Julia and other people, but I like to begin by thanking all of you for being here, because it's what makes it a community, right? When you start commenting on each other's posts, it's what makes everybody feel supported. And as an artist community, I think that's the most important thing. It's why I love doing this and commenting and teaching, is seeing the support that's being generated between all the artists that are here. So, okay, today the talk is about lawyers for artists, legal advice. And it's fairly simple in a way. There's a number of aspects to legal advice, and I'm going to give this brief talk today, and of course, as always, answer questions afterwards. And also, as always, if you have topics that you want me to talk about and do these kind of lectures with Q&As on, do not hesitate to post them, because I will do them. There's already a few coming up that were all based on suggestions of yours. So, lawyers for artists and legal advice. There's going to be times when you want some legal advice. You want to talk to a lawyer about something. And there's a number of ways to go about that. There are some issues that won't need legal advice. You want to know what kind of form to show to a gallery. You're dropping work off, and you want to know what kind of contract you should have. And that's something we can discuss in our forum, in the Facebook private forum that all of you are part of. But essentially, when it comes to contracts, they're mostly fairly simple. For most galleries, what you're looking for is a consignment form, and you can bring that in, and you can print those out online. And I have some of those in the resource sections of the courses. And those are just basic consignment forms that says, this is how many paintings I'm dropping off, this is the price, and I'll pick them up at this date unless you sell them and you're taking 50%, no more, or whatever it is. Basic consignment form that two people sign. But sometimes legal advice, of course, requires a lawyer. So basic forms, there are books about, they're downloadable on the internet all over the place, just legal forms to deal with. But oftentimes you need to talk to a lawyer, or you feel that you need to talk to a lawyer. And in that case, there's a few things you can do. One is, in New York, there's something called Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts. And Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts is an organization that not only teaches different courses, physical courses out of their main branch in New York City that you can pay to attend on a whole variety of issues like copyright and starting a nonprofit and a lot of things that require quite a bit of legal know-how and support, but also, depending on your situation, they also take on pro bono clients. Pro bono means they're doing the work for free. You're not paying for them. So Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts is something that exists in New York, but it also exists in other states. It also exists in different forms in other countries. The way you find out about legal help for artists in your state, if you're in the United States, is to call up your Council on the Arts, your state Council on the Arts. So whether you're in California or Florida or New York or Maine or Vermont, the Vermont State Council on the Arts, the Maine State Council on the Arts. These are great resources for artists. They're nonprofits, and they'll let you know what's available in the state. And in terms of legal advice, you can ask them directly. Is there a volunteer lawyer association like the Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts in New York? Many times there are, or there are lawyers that will simply offer some of their services. So in Canada, in Europe, there's ministries of culture, and you can ask the same thing. Are there lawyers that can give me support as an artist that work pro bono? Do you have access to legal services? Do we as artists have access to legal services? And many times, just like the VLA in New York, Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts, in other countries, in Canada, in other states, there will be lawyers that set up classes as well. So you can go to attend classes on specific things that you're interested in to educate the arts community. But maybe you want to talk to a lawyer first. You're not sure how serious your question is. So here's something that's important that I learned a while ago when looking for advice on a number of issues. One of them was when my mother was dying, legal advice, and then other issues when landlord wanted to raise the rent very fast, or things that didn't even directly relate to the arts. I wasn't sure where to get legal advice. And so what I did was I began calling up lawyers, and you can all do this. So let's say you have a situation, you feel that a gallery has kept your work, they haven't returned it, and they're refusing to answer phone calls, something like that. Or whatever else. There's always different legal issues that come up, right? Somebody's, maybe you can't get access to your apartment, your landlord locked you out. I don't know, there's always a variety of things that could warrant legal advice. So what you do is you look in, you Google lawyers locally and begin calling them up. Many times the lawyers themselves, even in small to mid-sized firms, actually answer the phone. If not, the secretary will answer the phone, and you tell the secretary, this is my issue, I want to speak to a lawyer about it, to see about, using their services. And of course, these are not volunteers. These are paid law firms. But what happens is you often get free advice. I got so much free advice from lawyers, it's incredible. Because this is the way they're thinking. A client's calling them. They want to pay for their services, possibly. The lawyer has to first assess the case, him or herself, to see whether or not it's even worth taking on. Because lawyers need a decent case worth pursuing and arguing so they can charge you a good amount of money to do this, and they can make a good amount of money. But what they do is right away on the phone with you, without charging you, they start looking at your case to see, number one, whether they're the type of lawyer that could help you, and number two, whether it's something that even merits a lawyer. And very often they'll give you advice right there and then that says, well, you could, take the gallery to small claims court. Small claims court is easy to do. You don't need a lawyer to do that. Or they'll say something like, you don't have a case with your landlord until you pay the rent. If you pay the rent, get the keys, then get your art out of there. They'll give you something often if they're not going to take on your case. And in most cases, they will not take on your case because it probably doesn't warrant their services and won't make them enough money. And you're not about to pay them anyway. That wasn't your intention. Or you're not about to pay them a lot, right? So this is very kind of important because all the nonprofit organizations for lawyers, like VLA in New York, you have to apply, you have to wait, there's 2 or 3 weeks turnaround time. You can't just drop in, you can't just talk to anybody. They're wonderful people and they have courses and everything, but those wheels turn slowly. If you want legal advice right away, you call a lawyer up right away. They will not charge you for talking to them. You'll talk to a secretary first in most cases, and that secretary will pass on your number. You can call back, or that lawyer will call you, and then you can tell them the details of your situation. And right then and there, they will give you advice or tell you, I'm not that kind of lawyer. You need to talk to a patent lawyer, or you need to talk to this type of lawyer. And then you can call up that type of lawyer and ask them the same thing. And they'll tell you right then and there, most likely that they can't, it's not worth taking them on, but your situation isn't so difficult to resolve on your own. So, it's maybe you didn't know that lawyers are so easily accessible, but it makes sense, right? It's very different than a doctor, say, who has to see you and really analyze the situation and look at your background. A A lawyer needs to hear like 5 minutes of what your issue is, what your problem is, to understand, number one, can they help you? And number two, do you even need a lawyer? And then the third thing is, can they give you some advice? And you'd be amazed. Lawyers do like to give out free advice because they realize someone's in a situation where they don't have the knowledge to get beyond that situation. And in a few words, they can often tell them just what to do. Very simple. And if they don't know it, they can tell you where to go to get that information. And it's either online or it's with another lawyer, and you can call that other lawyer up and ask the same thing. How do I'm in this situation, and they often give you quick advice. Because in order to really use a lawyer's services and pay them the money that they want to be paid, your case has to be complex and worthy of spending a lot of their time on it. And in most cases, it's not. If it is a very complex case and does actually require hours of a lawyer's attention, then volunteer lawyers for the arts is what you want to look for. In other states, in other countries, if there isn't a VLA, you're looking for lawyers who work pro bono for the arts. And many lawyers do this. They get actually tax write-offs for doing this. So a lawyer can bill so many hours per year, and then they can also give away so many hours per year. That's how they get a tax write-off themselves, and that's how they also feel good about themselves. They're doing something good for the community, for the world, just like you. So that's the talk on lawyers. It's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. They're there for you. So just to summarize, in New York, there's an organization called Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts. They have a website. They're mostly for New York issues, but if the issues pertain to New York and you're out of the state, they may be able to help. Again, there's an application process there that takes 2 to 3 weeks for them to turn around. But also they teach classes that are open to the public on a whole variety of topics, of legal topics, and they give in-depth help, advice, and instructions. Other than the Lawyers for the Arts, in other countries like Canada, all throughout Europe, the Middle East, Asia, you can look for your ministries of culture and talk to them and ask them about volunteer lawyers for the arts, if there are any, and how to access them. That includes Canada as well, if I didn't say that. And the United States, if you don't have one in your state, you call up your state council on the arts. Every single state has one. From Alaska to Maine, every single state has one, and ask them, is there a Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts organization? And the last point to summarize is you can also call lawyers directly. Look locally in Google and just begin calling lawyers up and leaving messages with secretaries. It says, I have an issue. I want to talk to you about hiring a lawyer because a gallery won't give back my art, and I need to hire them, to talk to them about that. And you won't get asked to pay anything. The lawyer will call you back first, and they will discuss it with you first to see if you even have a case. And in that process, they will give you advice that you're not paying for. They will not charge you for that phone call because they're just trying to figure out whether or not they can even take on your case. So that's the story. That's something that really is to take advantage of, because lawyers really aren't all the evil snakes that we often think they are, or that they're made out to be. They're people that are trying to resolve conflicts, and if they can resolve your conflict with a 5-minute conversation, they're happy to, because they don't want to take on a case that's not going to make them any money and will waste your time. So, okay, that's the talk on lawyers. Now I want to take any of your questions if you have any. So let's see. Hi, Rhonda, Sue, Deborah, Clyde, Luna, Kip. Great to see everybody. Eva, great to see you. Juniper, Mimi, great to see you, Mimi. Savas, Sue. What type of lawyer should we contact? Okay, Sue, what type of lawyer? It depends on what you're doing. But you can look at a general practice lawyer. as soon as you call, it depends what your story is, but there are patent lawyers, of course. There's a lot of different kinds of lawyers, but it depends on your case, of course. But if you don't know what kind of lawyer to contact, just call one that you see in the book. Could even be one for accident and injury. Now, that's not what you want to talk about, but if you call a lawyer that specializes in accidents and injury, and your issue is stolen property or copyright, that lawyer will tell you who to contact. That's the best I can do there, because it depends on exactly what it is that you need help with. But call one first. I mean, could be general practice or real estate. There's so many different kinds. But just call one, and right away you'll find out, one local one, you'll find out what lawyer to turn to, because they know more about the specifics of the type of lawyer that you need than I could ever know, depending on the case. So yeah, lawyers will know more about other lawyers, and you can also Google a little bit, and you'll know probably more or less what it's about. If it's about a contractual issue, if it's about a real estate issue, if it's about patent, copyright, and some lawyers handle multiple types of cases too. Okay, do I cold call? Kip did a cold call and did get all the info I needed for free. Right, so Kip's mentioning right now, he also did a cold call, and that's what I'm saying. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, Kip, because that's what I'm saying. Oftentimes you get all the information you need for free. Yeah, it's amazing, right? Because the lawyer has the advantage of just telling you something that's easy to tell you, helps you out, you're thankful. You may come back to that lawyer again in the future when you want to pay him, or if you need to pay him for something, or her. What about services like LegalZoom that has lawyers available through a membership? Okay, lawyers available through a membership. I mean, there's no reason to do that unless you need ongoing legal services. Lawyers that are available through a membership like LegalZoom are really for improving your credit only. And they have limited effectiveness. And I'm glad you asked that, Sue, but basically the way those kind of lawyers work is for a fee of 20 or 40 or 60 a month, depending on what it is you're dealing with. You can give them your bills that are overdue or creditors that are following you, and they will keep sending letters on your behalf that says whatever they say, like this case is 7 years old, you should close it, or they need more. There's the legal letters that they'll continue to send back and forth. But the membership lawyers in all the cases that I know are only for a very narrow field. And that's basically you have a whole bunch of lawyers that keep sending out lawyers about credit only. It's just a credit issue. It's not for more nuanced things that have to do with your art and other issues you may be facing as an artist, or even if you have inherited money, or there's taxes you have to pay, or an estate you're dealing with. Those membership services in all the cases that I know won't cover that. They're really focused entirely on credit issues. Okay, hi Savas. Hey Bill, I know you asked for another lecture, Bill, and I'll do that one as well. Okay, Juniper, what about advice on writing contracts for sales? Do you need a contract for installations? Yes. You can contact a lawyer, but usually what lawyers are for in contracts is if you're getting a contract that's 10 pages long and you want a lawyer to read through it to make sure that your rights are protected here. Because a lot of times people give you these big contracts and they're not even looking that carefully. They're what's called boilerplate, right? They're just these kind of generic contracts. But Juniper, generally, you don't need a lawyer for a contract for an installation at a gallery. There's a lot of legal forms you can download, and in most cases your contract is pretty simple, right? You're installing a show the gallery's liable for the show while it's up. In other words, they have insurance on the space. You're not going to be held liable for it. And there may be terms of payment if something's sold or not with the installation, and terms of when it comes down and that you own this. Again, these are plain boilerplate legal forms that you can download online, that I have in some resource sections. I'll be putting together more of those. So don't worry too much about that. They're really more consignment forms is what you're looking for when you're having a show or even an installation, that you're saying to the gallery. You have a little sheet printed out. You could even write it yourself that just says, this is what I'm dropping off, this is when I'm picking it up, and if it's sold, this is how much you're taking, and you can't discount this work, it's only for this price. And they sign at the bottom, and you have 2 copies, and you sign at the bottom. It's a contract. So for that, you wouldn't really have to worry too much about contacting a lawyer. Lawyers are more for like, there's a problem here, or you're given a contract that you don't understand and you want them to read it. Is there a cheat sheet, Juniper available that lets you know what you need to be thinking about legally when doing various things? No, that would be too broad. I don't think there is a cheat sheet, but basically, if you're getting into a legally binding situation with someone about sales or a partnership in a business or organization, and money is involved, serious money, those are scenarios where legal advice may be necessary. But of course, many times people enter into all these situations without lawyers. They start businesses together. They do artist collaboratives together. They start nonprofits. They do all kinds of things together without the help of lawyers. So while it's good to have solid contracts to begin with, lawyers are usually for problems. You're running into a problem with your landlord, or with art that you can't get back from a gallery, or something like that. Do you need a lawyer for, Doreen, for copyright online? You don't need a lawyer for copyright online. Lawyers can't help you with that. What a lawyer would help you for is copyright infringement. If you feel there's a case where someone has taken your work explicitly and made a tremendous amount off it, you have a right to pursue that, and you can talk to a lawyer about that. Small claims court often gets you very, very far without having to do any of that. I knew someone who was upset that she had to return 4 or 5 phones to Apple because something in it wasn't working, and she wanted to take Apple to court. And a lawyer told her, I can't do that for you, and it's not worth my time or yours. You can go to small claims court, though. She went to small claims court, which is her local, town hall, town legal building, and where there's legal services for your town or city hall or town hall. And she said, I want to file a small claims, suit against Apple. She did. Apple didn't send a lawyer. They made her an offer. They said, how about $1,100? She took it. That's how small claims court works often. As soon as you file suit, the other person, and it costs, I think, $300 or something to do it, or maybe less. It doesn't cost very much, much less in some cases. And a suit can be settled right there, and you don't have a lawyer. You don't have anything. The other party, which is Apple, has to decide, do they want to send a lawyer to your town hall to fight this? They probably don't. They'd rather send you some money. So that's how small claims work. Okay, so thank you all. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for the questions. I want to, again, thank all of you for being in here, in this tribe, in this wonderful, warm, loving tribe, because you're supportive of each other. And I think there's nothing we all need more as artists than support. So it's great to see when someone gets a show or residency, has something exciting has happened, that you all say congratulations and ask how that happened, which is fine too. But it's great to see you all congratulate somebody, because as an artist, that isn't often what happens, that congratulations pour in. So this is the forum where that happens because all of you are so generous, and I just want to thank you all for that. Also, and if any of you, you're all members here who are listening to this now, if you have any suggestions for further talks, please let me know in this thread or a separate post, and I'll do those talks. These Q&As happen every either Friday or Thursday, and I'd be happy to do them for you. Just suggest a topic. So let's make sure there's nobody else. Yes, okay, Luna says that in some states there are also pro bono lawyers with a Chamber of Commerce, right? Another good place to look. And yeah, that's always good too. So your New York State Council on the Arts should also be aware of that too. But great to know. Chamber of Commerce too is also a great place to look because they're always local. Thank you for that, Luna. And again, thank you all for being members here and for being so supportive of each other. And again, don't hesitate to suggest other topics like this, and I will do talks on them or find an expert that will. Thank you so much, and I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day.